Hey, deserving listeners, 90-Day Fiancé. My name is Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist and a professor. This is the Psychology in Seattle podcast. As I always say, everything I say in reaction to this is completely speculative, total speculation. As I always say, let's watch.
And there was no drama.
Because
surprisingly,
you keep your mouth shut.
Because I kept my mouth shut?
Everybody kept their mouth shut.
there was one person that wasn't here. So, I don't know, I'm just saying it might have something to do with it.
Not, if you're talking about the same
Loud
person,
person.
it would not
I don't think that would be an issue.
Mom,
At a housewarming
you're
party.
in like La La Land.
Yeah, so they're in the same dynamic, seemingly. And I would hope that the sisters would be able to sit down with the mom instead of having these little one-off conversations, would be able to tell the mom their approach. There's still tension there. There's still a disagreement, which is understandable. But we're seeing another manifestation of that now.
Housewarming party? No. Charlie would not be an issue.
Oh, I understand it's your son and you
honestly-
have your rose-colored glasses on, but
No.
you need to be realistic.
It's not even that.
So again, the premise is probably sound and healthy that the sister is saying there, that the mother has rose-colored glasses on and that she, quote unquote, needs to be more realistic. But you can't rush those kinds of things, and you could really alienate someone and really drive a wedge between you and your mom. Your mom, in all likelihood, the mom in all likelihood is suffering as well, might also have some issues that are tied in as what I was saying earlier. So I don't know. I just see a family that doesn't seem to have a clear guideline of how to approach these things. Like if I were there and I were differentiated enough, I would say, hey mom, totally get it. Maybe Charlie could have been here and maybe it would have been okay. Maybe he would have been drinking, maybe not. Either way, there were a lot of times when having Charlie around was totally fine. So you're right. But the risk is that you just never know. If he were to overdrink or this sort of thing, then it could have completely ruined the entire party, could have resulted in violence again. And I've just decided I just don't want to roll those dice anymore. I understand that you think that's okay, but for me and for us, we don't want to roll those dice anymore. Yeah, you could say something like that instead of just saying this.
Andre?
It is that.
I think you and Charlie, need to bury the hatchet.
No. Until the guy gets help for his
That's
issues,
what it is.
there's
We've
not
told
going to
you
be
this.
hatchets involved.
Yeah, that would not be advised. I mean, it'd be okay. It depends on what the mom means. If it just means Andre and Charlie sitting down and having a coffee together or something, maybe, I don't know what that means exactly, but if I were to look at this clinically, because this is a reality TV show, you never know what's really happening, but based on the data, this is a way for the mom to consciously or unconsciously try to pull the family back to its original homeostasis that was a couple years ago, where Charlie, I don't know if this was the homeostasis, but it wouldn't be uncommon for the person suffering from the addiction to be in the throes of their addiction, and everyone is sweeping it under the rug or just dealing with it or causing other problems that distract from it, who knows, which I think I hypothesized about this before, that Andrei could have been a stand-in for all of the family's frustration and anger about Charlie or some other issue, and, they just seem, the sisters just seem so focused on Andrei and just how horrible he was when, at least from the edit on the show, it didn't seem like Andrei was doing anything that deserved that. And so it seemed that displacement on some level. And maybe now that Charlie is out, the family seems a lot more, a lot less conflictual. But the mom is, unconsciously perhaps trying to pull things back.
So what are the issues?
We've told you this.
Alcohol issues.
So wait a minute. Everybody here tonight was drinking alcohol.
Okay, but did we have it been aggressive?
Yeah, it's just classic enabling codependency to point out these anomalies. Well, everyone here was drinking, and if Charlie were here, he might say a similar thing. What? I don't know. You guys overdrink sometimes, that kind of thing. It's all just an attempt to bring the family back to its original state where everyone just was in denial of the problem. Now, that isn't to say that some people in the family don't also have problems with alcohol. So that could be looked at as well. I don't know.
Do we abuse the alcohol?
You're
Do we
advocating for the
abuse
wrong
it?
person, actually. Charlie drinks every day, and it's just a major problem, and it's probably gonna end up very bad for him and for everybody surrounding him who cares about him. We got used to living like that, but it doesn't work out with me.
And I don't feel so great about everyone outing Charlie in this way. If I were there, I'd say, look, if Charlie has a problem, absolutely talk amongst yourselves, get the help you need. But I don't know if it's fair to air the dirty laundry on a reality TV show. Now, maybe Charlie has given consent for that. I don't know. But, he's obviously suffering and doesn't need additional reasons to hate himself. So I would hope that people wouldn't say those things. But I don't know, it gives me something to talk about, I guess.
And meeting with him is a completely bad idea because we did that before. I'm not doing that again. Pam is delusional. Nobody drinks as much as Charlie.
Andre, I beg to differ. You and Charlie both drank morning till evening in Moldova.
You're literally insulting me.
It's possible. It's possible that Andrei does drink as much as Charlie. It's possible Andrei also has a problem with alcohol sometimes. But from what we just heard, Charlie drinks every day, purportedly. So that's probably not what Andrei does. Plus, some people have a bigger problem with alcohol. And it really paints a different picture of the past, that time when at the wedding in Andrei's hometown where Charlie got on the microphone and was like, what was Charlie doing? Anyway, those kinds of scenes, you just wonder if that was alcohol fueled. In all likelihood it was. Weddings and other similar events can be flashpoints for addiction episodes, over drinking, overusing, for various reasons, but...
Don't put my husband in a boat with Charlie. They're two different people.
But you're literally insulting me right now. I'm not drinking every day.
You act differently. The alcohol affects him differently.
There is a denial
So
problem.
that means he has a
If you're
problem.
trying to cover your son up,
he does have an issue, but he needs to realize that himself.
Yeah, none of this is functional. They need guidance. And if they don't get it, I'm worried that something bad will happen. Either Charlie will indeed come back and everything will go back to the way it was, or some other problem will emerge. This is a phenomenon that we see in systems and family systems, that it's not always that one person has a problem. It's that the system has a problem and one person happens to exhibit the problem more noticeably. But if Charlie is now kind of outside the system is perhaps because of an internal routine illness, an illness of the routine, an illness of the structure, then they might be looking for another distraction, another scapegoat. And the mom might be that, because before it was Andrei. Maybe originally it was Charlie, and then they couldn't deal with that, so they switched to Andrei, and then they went back to Charlie. Charlie is now gone, and now they're switching to the mom, and the mom is trying to switch to Andrei. They need someone to help them to navigate this, because if they don't, I'm worried that things will either just change but still be bad. Because they might say, well, we've succeeded. Charlie's now out, and everything's good. But the underlying issue might still be present.
Mom, but if everyone around him is enabling him and sticking their heads in the sand, he's never going to come to that realization.
Yeah, Andrei as well. I'm hearing words from him that seem to indicate at least a little bit of awareness and education around how to help someone with an addiction, how to react to someone with an addiction. So they're using that language, which is a positive, but the way that they're talking to the mom, the way that they're dealing with her is, now maybe it'll get through, and sometimes these things are messy, but I worry that the mom will walk away saying, well, they're all unreasonable. They all drink a lot, and Andrei sometimes drinks as much as Charlie, so I can disregard everything they're saying and say that they're the problem and not Charlie. In fact, the only reason why Charlie drinks a lot is because the way everyone treats him, or something along those lines.
Actually shocked that for once we are agreeing with Andrei. one thing that we can agree on and come together on is the Charlie issue.
Wow. So it does not get any more quintessential than that when it comes to systems phenomena. So earlier I was saying that when a family has a problem, which this family seems to have a number of issues, then you look for a scapegoat to blame, to triangulate with, and it helps to band everyone together. So, for example, total speculation, no idea. Everyone is worried about approval and conflict and being rejected or kicked out or excluded from the father's business and his approval and his money stream, this kind of thing. A lot of tension, a lot of infighting, a lot of competition, which is clearly present, right? And the family agrees subconsciously or consciously to attack Andrei in the beginning as a way of banding together. It's like, well, we hate each other, right? But if we are against the same enemy, then we are on the same team. It also distracts from the anxiety if we're all yelling about something. We all do this in small talk. We might small talk about the weather. Like, oh, the weather today is so hot, or it's so rainy or something. It's two people that are tension. They don't know each other that well, so they band together against the weather or against a news story or politics or something. We do this all the time, and it's to some extent functional. But when it leads to a lack of growth in a family, then it keeps them stuck. And so it's possible that they were banding against Andrei. Then Charlie became so symptomatic that they bonded against Charlie. And now that they're all against Charlie and Andrei has gone along with the system because he's fully engulfed now, they're like together with Andrei and they're like, why? Wait, I thought we hated each other. But no, it was all just different alliances trying to distract from the illness in the family itself.
Like, he's not blood related. He can see it for what it is.
It is refreshing to have somebody else
that can see it for what it is
and help prove to our parents, like, hello, wake up.
And it's just interesting. Now, who knows what's really happening? We just see these little bits and pieces. But the attitude shift from these two sisters from before and after. Because before, Andrei could do no right. And now they're like, yay, we love Andrei. How do you have that attitude shift when Andrei hasn't changed at all? In fact, he's worse than he was before, according to their criteria, because their main beef against Andrei was that he was ingratiating himself with the father and getting into the business. And from what I understand, Andrei is even more into the business, has replaced Charlie at this point. So according to their past criteria, they should hate him 10 times as worse, but they don't because of the alliances and the triangulations and the scapegoating.
I don't see how this is accomplishing anything.
The issue is, Charlie drinks. You guys drank the same amount. I mean, I've seen it happen.
No. Okay.
Charlie does get aggressive.
Okay.
That's
And
not the point.
he needs help with that.
Okay.
Okay, they edited something there. I'd be curious as to what they edited out. I don't know. Maybe they talked about a specific treatment program or something. But the mom is now conceding that they're right, but I'm guessing the mom is trying to say, and also you can't reject him or something like that. So yeah, okay, maybe things are moving forward, but it all depends on, in terms of Charlie and his recovery, it depends on him. It depends on, they can say whatever they want to, and their approach will affect him, but until he recognizes that he has an issue and he has to work on it, it is probably just going to progress and get worse, or at the very least stay the same.
I feel like Andrei and Charlie are the same person because they're very alpha male. I would like to see them work through their issues as adults. And then my hope really is to have the whole family come together in helping Charlie deal with whatever he's going through so that he can put all of these things behind him.
So hard to know what the mom means by that, but I'm going to take a guess and say that it's not a sound plan, what the mom has. It sounds like, I don't know, that she wants Charlie and Andrei to meet up one-on-one and quote-unquote make up. And then that will be an inroad to Charlie coming back into the family. And then they will help him get better, but really it just means going back to the way things were. So I'm guessing that's what's happening. Because if the mom meant what I hope she meant, which is the family will have a unified approach to helping him encourage to enter recovery, whether that means inpatient or outpatient or AA or something. But it has to be a road to abstinence and a sustaining of that abstinence. Because for people that suffer from addiction, it's very hard for them to use and have. Now, another thing is that a problem in the family might be around substances and alcohol. I don't know that. The mom is saying that Andrei drinks as much as Charlie does, which I don't doubt, but who knows? Certainly, well, it doesn't sound like he drinks every day, but anyway, but it's possible. And when the family, if they really are committed to helping Charlie, then they would all probably have to stop drinking at their get-togethers. And I don't think that's a welcomed thing. Now, they don't have to necessarily. Charlie could go through recovery and be at family events while everyone is drinking, and his recovery is up to him. He has to, maybe he can't come to certain parties at certain times. Doesn't mean he can't hang out with his family at other times, especially in early recovery. But there's a chance that the family is like, well, none of us really want to face our issues and our relationship with alcohol, so we're just going to keep him at arm's length, and then we can just go on with our lives. I don't know. But the mom is saying that she wants the family to help him. And it's very hard to know what to do regarding that. The classic is to have an intervention, right, where you surprise him with a discussion, a roundtable discussion around how his alcoholism has affected you, and then you compassionately try to encourage him to go to treatment, that kind of thing. Certainly that's one thing you can do. There are a lot of pros and cons to that. There's a lot of cons, there's a lot of pros. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It can really alienate someone. So there's that. But at the very least, you could have a unified approach and understanding of like, okay, here is our overall plan as a family, and we'll adjust as time goes on. I will also point out that the dad is being quiet, or he's interjecting with like very milquetoast statements around, hey, can't we all just get along, that kind of thing. I think he's very phobic about conflict, as we saw from the recap last week, which happened, the last season they were on, or I don't know, when they had that big fight, Charlie and Andrei, violence. The father was just bawling. I don't think we'd ever seen we saw Natalie cry in her bed that one time, but the father was very distressed. And I think the father, I'm guessing the father has a lot of trauma around seeing family members fight violently, and that triggered him greatly. And I think when there's tension, so we might even be seeing a microcosm of what was going on a long time ago, where the mom is much more assertive and the dad is much less, and all the strong personalities and the dad struggling in that.
You willing to work with me to help him?
I'm not willing to help him.
And then we hear the dad say Mother of the Year under his breath, and no one really regards it. So what is that? A sarcastic, hurtful insult to the mom. Mother of the Year. It's interesting. You just really have to wonder what the history of this family is, and because I'm going to take a guess and say that there is elaborate history around this issue of the father and the mother and Charlie and addiction and alliances and triangulation and enmeshment and judgment. That statement that dad says, like, Mother of the Year. I mean, there's got to be a huge history around that, right?
Charlie, his life in my house, in my territory, he is not welcome. And so are you going to.
And it's interesting that the mom goes after Andrei. If I was to take a guess, if I was to conceptualize this according to my hypothesis, she's trying to reorient the family again to scapegoat him because she felt better when it was like that. And then Charlie can come back in, and also Charlie can get alongside the sisters and everyone else in the family and attack Andrei in that way. Because what does Andrei have to do with any of this? I guess it's rational to see that the violence between Andrei and Charlie was the straw on the camel's back. But it's interesting that the mom is poking the bear. He seems like he's drank a little bit and he's getting riled up, which could actually cause him to say or do things that will cause the family against him, and they'll either temporarily go back to scapegoating Andrei or long term. So let's see if he can manage this. And if I was Andrei's therapist and he was telling me about this, I would say, you have to avoid being tricked into becoming the scapegoat again. Just agree to disagree. At the very least, lower your voice. Just, say what you think, and if they keep pestering you, just say, well, yeah, each to their own, instead of, he can't let it lie. He's easily entangled.
Be not welcomed if you're not going to listen to me. You're going to be in a denial, and you're going to put in the same category as Charlie.
Stop.
Okay, so that's bottom line.
Stop.
I'm not going to stop. I'm telling you my truth. I'm not willing to go over there. That's
Can
it.
you take a deep breath? Can we please
The
just take a
party's
deep
gonna
breath?
Stop here, Pamela.
The other thing that could be happening, in addition to all this, is that Andrei has been elected by the system to confront the mom, at least in this instance, because they know that Andrei hates Charlie and will be very loud and big with his words. So they might actually be wanting him to do this so that they don't have to.
Charlie, when I'm talking to your mother, is just talking to literally a brick wall. She literally accused me of me being a problem. I want her to realize that if she put...
I don't know if you saw that, but in the mirror, there's a kid. One of the children is in the background. It's always something to think about, that they might not be on camera, but they might be witnessing all of this. And if I were one of the adults, I would say, we can't talk about this right now. The kids are here and we've been drinking. So let's talk about this another time. I think that would be a good idea.
Puts me in a category of her son. I'm going to put her in a category of a person that is in denial. I'm over this. I think everybody's over this, and we're moving forward.
Good night, girls.
Bye, Andrei. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Nothing? Okay.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with being done. It's just, how do you communicate about it? You don't have to be yelling at people. You can just say, hey, totally get it. I'm not ready for that yet. And that's the approach. People call it the broken record approach, meaning that back in the day, if you had records and you had a scratch, it would skip sometimes and just keep playing the same phrase over and over again. In fact, one time in college, it was late at night and I was with my friends and I was playing an AC/DC record, and there was a scratch, and there's a very repetitive AC/DC song it goes, giving the dog a bone, giving the dog a bone. And the skip was almost exactly, if not exactly, on the beat. And so it was late at night in college. And so it took us a long time to figure out that the record had been skipping for a few minutes. Anyway, we call it that because there's this temptation that when you say something and you assert yourself and it's not received, or that it's argued with or something, that you have to escalate or come at it from other angles. And that's how they get you. If you just stick to the script and you say, totally get it, I'm just not ready to engage with him yet. You don't have to, but that's what and I think that's what we're deciding. We're just not going to engage with them for a bit. The mom comes out with a different, well, everyone drinks. Okay, maybe, but we're just not ready to engage with that at this point. Well, I just don't understand why you're rejecting him all the time. Totally get it. We're just not ready at this point. We're not ready to engage. Because if you get entangled and you try to address what they're saying, or you get louder with your voice to try to really convince the other person who is not convincible, then one, you're just getting your heart pressure up, which isn't, it's unnecessary to do that. But also, you might be inadvertently playing your part in returning the family back to the homeostasis before that I was hypothesizing that Andrei almost did, but I don't think it got to that level. All right, well, if you didn't know already, we have merch like mugs. There's this mug. This is fan art, and it's really great. You've got to see it up close. And So, and hardly anyone ever buys this, which I totally understand because it's like, who would want a mug or a t-shirt with this weird face on it? But I just love it. It's called Cat Spirit because, and there's a space needle on the back. It's just really cool. There's a lot of different designs that Stacy, my wife, has designed. This is the only one she didn't design, I think. Anyway, and I'm also on Cameo. I actually just did a cameo for someone. By the way, if you ever do a cameo and the name isn't very easy to pronounce, make sure that you provide a pronunciation that's understandable. Because sometimes people are, they'll say, this name is pronounced like this. And I'm like, that doesn't clear it up for me. And because it's always such a bummer, right? To, Cameo is like, hey, happy birthday to so-and-so. And to mispronounce their name, I mean, it just would really kill it for me. My solution, honestly, usually is I'll just try to pronounce it all the ways that I think it might be pronounceable, which isn't good, obviously. But anyway, usually it's fine. And cameos are great. It's always a fun experience for me. Anyway, and everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.